CitizenCon is typically a magical time of the year for Star Citizen fans, where we get to sit back and dream a little bit about what could one day be the game we love. Much like Christmas to a child, it's filled with imagination and creativity, and even if a small part of us knows that it's not real, we surrender ourselves to the possibility for the few minutes before the sharp reality sets back in. I am Citizen Chaos, and here's my take and recap of CitizenCon Direct this year. And spoiler alert, there's no real magic to talk about. CitizenCon Direct this year promised to be different. It promised to be focused on only the things that they could realistically deliver in the next 12 months. And to me, that took away a lot of the magic and made it a little more like a longer, more vast version of an SCL, a somewhat regular update show that they do with various parties throughout the year. Now, as we take a jump into the details, don't forget that I'm also announcing some big channel news and a winner of my ship giveaway in the middle of the video. So stay tuned to find out if you are the new owner of a brand new ship. We're going to start out strong and we're going to talk about the Genesis Planetary tech engine to begin with. Now, for anyone who doesn't realize, the Genesis Planetary tech engine is the new engine that they're going to be using to generate everything from terrain to resources, right down to the actual civilizations that really make the world feel alive. Now, this new engine is based on a series of rules that help kind of limit and transition between different biomes. So what that means is they have a series of stats and a series of rules that simply say this type of grass would grow best under these conditions. So if the conditions are met, that type of grass can naturally grow in that location. No longer is every single resource manually going to be placed by a designer, but rather the world is actually going to generate itself. Now, this is going to lead to a lot of possibilities for things like exploration, because no one has actually ever seen every location prior to its release. That's really exciting news. But in my opinion, this is really one of the kind of things that just kind of quietly changes everything. It's not big, it's not flashy, but it's really going to make the Star Citizen universe feel alive. And I think despite the fact that it is seen as kind of one of the smallest changes out there, this will actually have the largest impact to the game in the long run. Right from the ability to generate entire systems and planets substantially faster than they could before, because now they're just computer generated, right on down to the fact that now we'll have true exploration. This is a really new groundbreaking piece of technology that they came out strong, and they promised to say that we would see it in some version within the next 12 months. That's huge news. Oh, next up, Nyx. So Nyx should be releasing sometime in November, but it's not going to be the entire star system, as I think a lot of people expected it to be. It's actually only going to consist of Levski and the main asteroid belt, initially anyways. So Nyx is planned to have 3 different planets, and along with all the other things that go with the planets, I'm sure. But these planets will actually be introduced slowly over the next 12 months as well. So within the next 12 months, we'll see the entire Nyx, but right away, we won't. Now, that being said, there is actually a lot of gameplay that's going to come along with it as well. So this, I think, is where a lot of the content for next year is going to be, and it's actually even starting out with a new mission that's going to take us into Nyx called Welcome to Nyx, which is going to continue the ASD storyline with kind of a combined arms combat, if that makes sense. So I'm sure that we will be talking about a lot of mining in the next year, possibly a lot of salvage in the next year, definitely a lot of hauling. All of these things naturally come into play as we introduce the 3rd system in our universe. Now, it's really exciting that we're going to get to kind of live along, if that makes sense, as the worlds are actually generated and introduced. So I can't wait to see how that actually plays out over the next year. Now, in regards to the Levski hub itself, Levski is kind of the central place where the Citizens Alliance, I believe it's called, decided to settle within Nyx, according to lore. Now, Nyx is a lawless system, but it's not meant to be like Pyro. It's meant to be lawless in the sense that it's not under UEE control, but rather under the Citizens Alliance control. So there is still some control, but it's really more of a frontier town than it is the Wild Wild West. Now, along with Levski Hub, we're going to see a mix of kind of EVA, traversal, mining, refining gameplay is going to be involved there. There's also going to be some grav plates that you can actually walk around outside. So it'll be interesting to be able to kind of jump between them. It's really the first time we've had that opportunity. It's kind of you're inside or you're outside. It's not how it's going to be going forward. There will ultimately be a lot of missions that focus on Levski. So I imagine it's going to be a fairly large, expansive place. So along with Nyx, one of the new missions they're going to be introducing, or at least mission type, it's called the Rock Cracker mission. Now, essentially, what this is a giant asteroid attached to an asteroid Kraken base that's going to be introduced. And the idea is that the players go in, more than likely with their org or group of other players, to attempt to reactivate a mining station, which will fire some giant lasers and crack open the asteroid, as in crack a hole in it. Now, this asteroid is actually large enough that you'll be able to fly ships directly in it. And the asteroid itself is going to be loaded with valuable materials. So imagine this as something an entire org can do and spend a day or two actually mining out everything that's within the asteroid itself. Now, this will be the first time that we actually see an org event in-game that's large enough to carry over several days naturally. Think of it as a line and mine on steroids, or on a much larger scale. Now, you have the potential that it can take days and days to actually mine out the asteroid. Not sure if they'll actually end up being that large, but they really give the impression that there's going to be a massive haul of minerals that are found within the inside of the asteroid itself. Now, the other thing that they mentioned is this is really going to be kind of that mixed arm combat. As you reactivate the station, you're obviously going to draw some attention, whether it be from PvP players, whether it be from the Vandal, who will now be populating the Nyx system as well, or whether it actually be from other patrols. So you're going to see some fierce competition happening while others are trying to actually go through and mine out their resources. That's going to make for some pretty exciting gameplay. And I, for one, am really excited to actually try this out because it gives me a reason to get together with an org and actually plow through something as a group. Sure, there's a line in mind, but everyone knows you can actually do that on your own if you try hard enough or find the right server. But this sounds like one of those things that will be impossible to do solo and really give a purpose to being part of a larger organization. At this point, I want to pause for a little bit of a personal announcement on the channel. Roughly 11 months ago now, I decided to start actually recording videos for YouTube, and not every video has been perfect. Not every video has been well liked even. But every video has been a new learning for me. Now, I recently, just a couple of days before CitizenCon, celebrated a major milestone on the channel. I reached 1,000 subscribers. Now, I had said back when I hit, I think it was 900 subscribers, that as a thank you, I would like to give away a ship to one of the people who comments and subscribes to my videos. Just, again, as a thank you. Now, I really do wish that I could give away a ship to every single person who watches my videos. Realistically, that's just not financially possible. So, what I've done is I've actually taken my most popular video, and I've grabbed that, and I'm going to grab just a random comment from a random viewer off of that video. Now, this person is actually subscribed, I believe. I did check that after the fact as well. But without further ado, let's find us a winner. All right. Well, congratulations to Newcastle Scotch. So, if you are watching this video, I will leave my Discord handle in the description below. Just contact me on Discord if you don't mind. I'll verify you are who you say you are, and then I will get the brand new Anvil Paladin shipped off to you. So that's right, the brand new Anvil Paladin that was just announced at CitizenCon. Honestly, the timing could not have been better on this one. I ran a poll. It seems to be the most popular ship out of CitizenCon. So as a thank you, the ship is all yours. Just contact me, and then, like I said, I'll verify you are the person who actually won, just so that random people don't try to get a free ship out of me. And we'll go from there. Without further ado, let's jump back into the CitizenCon news. So at CitizenCon Direct, we did actually see an update to one of the things that I think the community is the most excited for. Although it was a little bit of a letdown that we wouldn't be seeing the full version. I'm sure nobody thought it was actually realistic that we could. It is crafting. So they weren't exactly clear at CitizenCon Direct whether this would be released by year's end or whether it would be put into a tech preview by year's end. But either way, the community should see it in one way or another. Now, they're going to start small. This is going to be focused primarily on FPS weapons, armor, and other gear. But to be honest, I think that's where it's needed the most as it is, because that's really what people would want to craft more commonly than things like a ship. A ship seems to be a little bit more endgame. I mean, I can't imagine bringing out anvil arrows on day one. That just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I think I agree with their approach on this one. Now, it will still be based on blueprints, and it'll still be based on the material quality and the different tiers of the material itself. Now, I don't think we're going to see the full version of the tiered quality and how it really impacts all of the different attributes of something like a weapon. But really, this is just for them to get information to see how this is going to affect things like the economy. Because as soon as people start to craft things, if it's too easy to craft, no one will ever buy another gun. I think this is also probably going to drive some more community-based tools, at least giving me the ability to sell things to other people. Now, again, only time will tell. That was definitely not part of the announcement here. But I think that this is going to be a major step for Star Citizen, so I'm excited to see that they're really committing to it in the next year. We'll see what actually happens, though. Now, they did also mention as part of the crafting that we're going to require an entire inventory overhaul just to support crafting. Now, can you imagine if every single gun that you had a different series of attributes? How are you possibly going to see that? How are you possibly going to use that when really nothing is going to stack? Unless they have something big planned that we are not aware of, we're going to have to make some major changes to make these things actually findable. Otherwise, it's going to be just an endless scroll to find ammo, for instance. Now, this, like I say, is a really big step because it's modular, it's physicalized, and it's finally going to give players something to actually build, not just buy. I mean, to date, pretty much everything in the game I could just buy off the pledge store and never actually spend a day playing the game. But with the introduction of crafting, all of that changes. The pledge store is now significantly less important. And they did even mention that crafted items will actually be more powerful and more valuable than any item that you can even buy, including those on the pledge store. It'll be interesting to see how exactly they pull that one off. And next up, we're going to talk about instancing. Now, this is something they say will come in 2026. And it's actually going to be a huge game changer for missions and events and their ability to scale. Now, this will allow CIG to create focused, controlled mission experiences for specific size player groups. What that means is if I were to run an event, like let's say I go to the ADS location, Say I go to the ADS location. If I'm running that solo, that's actually a very difficult experience today. At least I struggle with it. I know a lot of other people don't, but it's a lot harder than if you were running it with a full-out organization. And what this will allow them to do is it'll allow them to scale up the difficulty of any given area within the world based on the number of players that are actually attending it. Now, this is a precursor to things like the sewer works that they talked about last year, or the municipal works under Area 18, where they have curated content that you'll have to go through a series of different things to unlock different areas. It's really a precursor to that. But it does expand out into things that we've even seen today, such as the Siege of Orison was the example they gave. Now, the Siege of Orison was great in a world where they had really a limited number of people who could even compete in it. To try and run an event like the Siege of Orison in today's world with 700 people on the same server, you're talking a massively overpowered player count for the PvE that's actually required to go through the Siege of Orison. But at the same time, if one or two players decide to play it, they can't scale it up so much that it makes it impossible for the solo person. So there's some huge possibilities with instancing that I think is going to really be game-changing. Between this and the Genesis game engine, these are the two biggest announcements that I see coming in the next 12 months. Now, both of them are really going to be background things. Both of them probably not going to be complete in the next 12 months, but at least we'll see them in some variation. But these are the background tasks that are really going to change the verse as we know it today. I'm excited to know that it's coming within the next year. Next up, we're going to talk about the ships, vehicles, and weapons section. So if there was one area of CitizenCon Direct that really fell flat, this would be it to me. To me, they had an outstanding opportunity to really celebrate all of the ships that they brought into the verse this year, while at the same time setting a bar for expectation and excitement for what they're going to do next year. Now, I think everyone already knows that they're really going to do the same thing they did this year on a monthly-ish releases with monthly-ish content to really keep people engaged. Quite honestly, it worked this year. Why wouldn't it work next year? But along with that, I would expect to see a bunch of ships. Now, I think they've launched more ships in 2025 than in any year previous, other than maybe like outstanding major events like when the game first launched kind of thing. But there's a lot of ships that were actually released, and with such regularity that actually became predictable. This is amazing. But that's not what this section of CitizenCon said to me. What this section of CitizenCon said was nothing about what they've done in the previous year other than what's your favorite. I mean, everybody really picked the Wolf. Not even really sure why, other than it's new. But they didn't really go through the ships they launched. They didn't really tie it back to the presentations. I think everybody is still waiting for that weird tower-looking ship. They're still wondering what that new consolidated outland ship is. Now, the only thing I can think of is that they were actually disappointed in the progress that they made against the ones that they promised and released a bunch of onboarding task-based ships instead. That's the only reason I can see why they wouldn't recap on what they did last year. There's also no silhouette game. You know, last year and the year before, one of the most exciting things to watch creators would do was to guess what the silhouettes were going to be. This year, none of that. None of that excitement. They did announce 3 new ships immediately that went on sale. That would be the Anvil Paladin, the ship that I'm actually going to be giving away, or just previously did give away, sorry. And then alongside that, they've got the Grey Market Shiv and the Stinger. Now, these to me are all really safe bets as far as ships go. I mean, there was nothing really exciting about this, and I think the biggest excitement about the ships that they actually did show and they did release was the Bucket and the Shiv. I mean, that kind of tells you how shitty of a conversation this really was. Now, as far as the future lineups go, I mean, they did hint throughout CitizenCon at a couple of things, like potential to release the Expanse, the RSI salvage ship, more refining focus releases next year. But all of these were kind of really soft, subtle hints that I'm sure not a lot of people even picked up on. I'm sure mixed in that there will be other mining-related ships, because mining is going to be a major part of Nyx. And I'm sure there will definitely be fighters released, because they're the easiest thing to actually get out in the game. But it missed that whole excitement that we've seen previously. Now, it was so dull they actually had to also include weapons in the ship section, because they really didn't have enough content to fill a decent-sized segment. Now, the weapons were rather disappointing as well. It's really more of the same of what we've seen already. All 3 of them were pirate or pyro-themed weapons. There's an AK-style weapon, an LMG-style weapon, and an RPG weapon where you basically stick 3 grenades in the end and randomly aim and hope it works. I mean, they're cool, but I think it would be a lot cooler if we could actually assemble them ourselves. Give us some sort of crafting that allows us to make these kinds of weapons, as opposed to having some designer go and make it and sell it en masse. The same thing really goes for the Grey's Market Shiv as well. I think it's a ship ahead of its time, and I think it'll be a lot more appreciated when I can go and make the choice to pull this and this and this off of this ship and construct it myself, along with this and this and this from this other ship, and I can really make those Frankenstein ships. That's what I'm excited about, not something that some designer decided to place exactly the same way for everybody. The most exciting thing that I found in this entire section was that they're adding binoculars. This hints to the possibility of some sort of spotter gameplay. I don't know. I can get excited about that, right? Now, there is no sniper glint on the binoculars either, which is nice. It won't give away your position. But other than that, like I say, this entire section really fell flat to me. I was quite disappointed in this. Now, they did step outside of the bounds a little bit and talk about the Road to 1.0, which is really something that's not just in the next year. Now, they did reaffirm that work continues behind the scenes. There's nothing that you visually see, but there's massive amounts of changes happening to the underlying game that, again, we don't really necessarily see on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm really curious to know exactly how close they really are. I'm starting to get the feeling that maybe, just maybe, they're kind of spoon-feeding us what they actually have. I don't know, I get suspicious when things like engineering were shown off and played 14, 15 months ago with no update since. I really wonder if they plan on a big, massive surprise, and the only reason that they aren't talking more about it now, or even giving us more today, is simply because it would interact with the Squadron 42 release next year. At least, hopefully next year. They didn't talk about Squadron 42 at all in this CitizenCon. And this is kind of one of those, they're a grower, not a shower sections to me. Really, there wasn't no headline. There was no big announcement. There is really just foundations and please believe us that we're actually still working on the game that you're paying us through pledges to do. I'm sure they are. I mean, I've seen some major changes even in just the last year. Things they don't celebrate, things they don't talk about, but things that are obviously there. So I'm really looking forward to a very pleasant surprise in a couple years when Squadron is behind us. They obviously ended on a positive note with the tactical strike groups. Now this again looks very exciting and a really nice, exciting reason to get out with the org and actually go and accomplish something. So what this is it's brand new large-scale combat. Essentially, you have to go through a series of different steps, whether it's flying through one end of a space station. Yes, I did say flying through a space station to try and shut off a reactor, which disables shields. Well, no, certain this, that, the other thing, I won't spoil it for you. But essentially, it's finally going to give us a reason to have a group of different types of ships. Right from an Avril Aero, which I'm sure would fit inside of a space station quite comfortably, all the way up to something like an Idris or a Polaris. All of the different types of combat ships are actually going to be required in this one. For instance, in that case, the Avril Aero may be able to go in, but you're going to be running out of things like fuel and munitions. Well, coming along with this gameplay, capital ships will actually be able to play a supporting role by allowing you to do things like refuel and rearm. That's going to be a major change to the verse in all aspects of it. I mean, I really look forward to the day that I can go out with my Prospector and my Polaris by myself. Yes, I solo fly my Polaris. And I can just go mine for a month, come back with all of the goods that I've found and refine them all. Now, it might be a little bit of a dream because the whole losing your jobs every month in the refinery, but it's exciting nonetheless to think that we will be a lot less dependent upon being at space stations. You can actually finally live out of your larger capital ships. Really, this gives us an actual reason to own a capital ship, other than just kind of flexing and taking screenshots. I would love nothing more than to sit here and tell you that CitizenCon Direct really just blew it out of the park for me. But this year it almost felt more like just an extended version of an SCL. Not to say that I was disappointed. I do love watching SCLs, but I miss the ability to sit back and dream a little bit on what this game could be. This CitizenCon Direct felt tangible, felt real. It felt boring. That's not what Star Citizen is about for a lot of people, myself included. Star Citizen is more about the dream than the reality. So even though I do truly appreciate that for the first time ever, they really seem to be sitting based in reality without making outlandish promises, I still miss the outlandish promises. This has been Citizen Chaos. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I can't wait to see you in the verse.